Hi fam, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. My name is Akpeze and I'm a Christian content creator based in Lagos, Nigeria. Back with another episode of my Women of Faith series in which we study the great women in the Bible and learn from their faith, from their journeys, and from their lives in general. Last week, we started a new series in which we are studying the relationship dynamics in poly relationships, if I would call it that. And it was motivated by studying David and his wives, and also this trend I have been seeing online about thruples and poly dynamics, not just one man, one woman, like all the different combos you can imagine, and open relationships. And I think open relationships is even the best way to describe what we are studying this week, because we are studying the dynamic between Jacob, Rachel, and Leah, and our anchor scriptures are Genesis 29 and 30. So I hope you did the assignment. It's not a very long reading, so I'll go through it. But it's always important for you to do the assignment by yourself, do the reading by yourself before, the video, so that we can discuss, so you can comment your thoughts. And so, the Holy Spirit can even speak to you more than my own understanding can, because I'm only focusing on the parts that were highlighted to me. But there may be something else that the Lord reveals to you. So I would love to hear from you if you did the assignment, and if you picked up on something that I might have missed. So without further ado, let's get right into the word. So it says, Then Jacob hurried on. Finally arriving in the land of the east, he saw a well in the distance. 3 flocks of sheep and goats lay in an open field beside it, waiting to be watered, but a heavy stone covered the mouth of the well. It was the custom there to wait for all the flocks to arrive before removing the stone and watering the animals. Afterward, the stone would be placed back over the mouth of the well. Jacob went over to the shepherds and asked, Where are you from, my friends? We are from Haran, they answered. Do you know a man there named Laban, the grandson of Nahor? He asked. Yes, we do, they replied. Is he doing well? Jacob asked. Yes, he's well, they answered. Look, here comes his daughter Rachel with the flock now. Jacob said, Look, it's still broad daylight, too early to round up the animals. Why don't you water the sheep and goats so they can go out to pasture? We can't water the animals until all the flocks have arrived, they replied. Then the shepherds moved the stone from the mouth of the well, and we water all the sheep and goats. Jacob was still talking with them when Rachel arrived with her father's flock, for she was a shepherd. And because Rachel was his cousin, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and because the sheep and goats belonged to his uncle Laban, Jacob went over to the well and moved the stone from its mouth and watered his uncle's flocks. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and he wept aloud. Wow, love at first sight. He explained to Rachel that he was her cousin on her father's side, the son of her aunt Rebekah. So Rachel quickly ran and told her father Laban. As soon as Laban heard that his nephew Jacob had arrived, he ran out to meet him. He embraced and kissed him and brought him home. When Jacob had told him his story, Laban exclaimed, You really are my own flesh and blood. Side note, the dynamic between Rachel and Jacob is already very interesting, because it just seemed like, perfect alignment, right place at the right time. They see and he falls in love. He even demonstrated his strength. He was telling the shepherds, move the stone now. They didn't agree. When she came, he moved it by himself, all of that. And then she quickly goes, tells her dad, and her dad even embraces him. So it is all seeming, just like divinely ordained right now. But we keep reading, and we're told that after Jacob had stayed with Laban for about a month, Laban said to him, You shouldn't work for me without pay just because we are relatives. Tell me how much your wages should be. Now Laban had 2 daughters. Kai! This is where it gets complicated. The older daughter was named Leah, and the younger one was Rachel. There was no sparkle in Leah's eyes, but Rachel had a beautiful figure and a lovely face. Since Jacob was in love with Rachel, he told her father, I'll work for you for 7 years if you'll give me Rachel, your younger daughter, as my wife. Agreed, Laban replied. I'd rather give her to you than to anyone else. Stay and work with me. So Jacob worked for 7 years to pay for Rachel, but his love for her was so strong that it seemed to him but a few days. I always reference that part as to the length that a man should be able to go to for you. Can you imagine you work for 7 years and it's like a few days because the love is that strong? But it gets complicated. So we keep reading. Finally, the time came for him to marry her. I have fulfilled my agreement, Jacob said to Laban. Now give me my wife so I can sleep with her. So Laban invited everyone in the neighborhood and prepared a wedding feast. But that night, when it was dark, Laban took Leah to Jacob and he slept with her. Laban had given Leah a servant, Zilpah, to be her maid. But when Jacob woke up in the morning, it was Leah. What have you done to me? Jacob raged at Laban. I worked 7 years for Rachel. Why have you tricked me? It's not our custom here to marry off a younger daughter ahead of the firstborn, Laban replied. But wait until the bridal week is over, then we'll give you Rachel too, provided you promise to work another 7 years for me. So Jacob agreed to work 7 more years. A week after Jacob had married Leah, Laban gave him Rachel too. Laban gave Rachel a servant, Bilhah, to be her maid. So Jacob slept with Rachel too, and he loved her much more than Leah. He then stayed and worked for Laban the additional 7 years. Now, at this point, I have to stop because already you see the imbalance in the dynamic of a throuple. Somebody is always going to be loved more than the other, and I've not done it to speak from experience, but it's just human nature. You cannot love everybody equally. Even when parents say, oh my God, I love all my children the same, it's not true. There's always one that they are closer to. And it is, like I said, just human nature to have different feelings for different people. You can't hold everybody on the same standard. And so imagine now, even in that intimate situation of a marriage, you know how complicated is it that we are told that Jacob loved Rachel much more than he loved his first wife, Leah. And we saw the build up, we saw how the story started, and it's unfortunate that her father tricked him into marrying her and she ended up in this situation. But I just wanted you to see the imbalance in that kind of open relationship, polyamorous relationship structure. So we continue, verse 31. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he enabled her to have children, but Rachel could not conceive. So Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, the Lord has noticed my misery, and now my husband will love me. She soon became pregnant again and gave birth to another son. She named him Simeon, for she said, the Lord heard that I was unloved and has given me another son. Then she became pregnant a third time and gave birth to another son. He was named Levi, for she said, surely this time my husband will feel affection for me, since I have given him 3 sons. Once again, Leah became pregnant and gave birth to another son. She named him Judah, for she said, now I will praise the Lord. Then she stopped having children. It's so sad. Look at the craving, look at the longing in Leah. The first one, Reuben, the Lord has noticed my misery. Now my husband will love me. Second one, Simeon, the Lord has heard that I was unloved and has given me another son. Third one, Levi, surely this time my husband will feel affection for me. Can you imagine a wife saying that? That means, I was just imagining, like the way that they just casually say, oh, Leah became pregnant again. Obviously they had to be intimate for her to become pregnant, and clearly the intimacy was just mechanical, or should I say methodological, because for her to say my husband will feel affection for me, that means there was no affection in that procreation. And do you really want that for your life? No. But anyways, we move to Genesis 30. So it says, when Rachel saw that she wasn't having any children for Jacob, she became jealous of her sister. Another red flag of the dynamic in an open relationship, in the imbalance in an open relationship. She was loved more, but she wasn't having children, and so she became jealous. Imagine being in a relationship with your life partner, that you are in that relationship with a complex, like with such complication. Even in this season I'm in, I'm studying about love, the attributes of love listed in 1 Corinthians 13, and it just hit me now that it says love is not jealous. That is one of the characteristics of love. And this isn't love, to be in a relationship where you are jealous of the other person. Maybe it is that the person is having children. Maybe it's that the person is loved more. Maybe it's that the person is, richer. Maybe it's that the person is finer. Just to be in an intimate relationship, that union of a marriage that is meant to be, your sanctuary in a way, your home where you grow, where you thrive, where you find rest. That's what marriage should be in my mind, though. It shouldn't be a place where I'm jealous and envious and fighting and just uncomfortable. So anyways, she pleaded with Jacob, give me children or I'll die. Then Jacob became furious with Rachel. Am I God? He asked. He's the one who has kept you from having children. Even see the complication that is now being brought about between Rachel and Jacob that are apparently in love, or tension, fighting, anger, conflict. Hey, why do this to yourself? Rachel told him, take my maid Bilhah and sleep with her. Wow, okay, we're no longer three, now we're four. It's what I call an open marriage, an open relationship. Anybody can get it. So Rachel gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, and he slept with her. Bilhah became pregnant and presented him with a son. Rachel named him Dan, for she said, God has vindicated me. He has heard my request and given me a son. Then Bilhah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Rachel named him Naphtali, for she said, I have struggled hard with my sister, and I am winning. Meanwhile, Leah realized that she wasn't getting pregnant anymore, so she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Be for real. Now we're 4 women and 1 man in one relationship. God, oh, God, I beg. Soon Zilpah presented him with a son. Leah named him Gad, for she said, how fortunate I am. Then Zilpah gave Jacob a second son, and Leah named him Asher, for she said, what joy is mine. Now the other women will celebrate with me. Do you even see the background, like behind the names of her children? Like, oh, it's about the other women. It's not about what this child is going to do, what this child is destined for, what. Anyways, I think you guys can tell that poly relationships I no go for me, and I need to maybe be the one voice online that is speaking out against it, because I don't understand how it's becoming so openly accepted in society these days. Anyways, we're told that one day during the wheat harvest, Reuben found some mandrakes growing in a field and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel begged Leah, please give me some of your mandrakes. But Leah angrily replied, wasn't it enough that you stole my husband? Now will you steal my son's mandrakes too? Bruh. Over mandrakes, that's like a fruit or a seed or whatever. And see the anger, see the contention that came out from her mouth, see the sour statement that she made towards her. That song that was trending, what is it? Haven't you done enough? The pain, the torment, the torture. It was just running through my mind when I was reading this. Like, she just asked you for some mandrakes. Quick, you already said that. Is it not enough that you took my husband from me? Now you want my mandrakes too? That shows you the bitterness, the tension, just the sour state of their home, of their family, of the dynamics. And eventually Rachel now answers her, I will let Jacob sleep with you tonight if you give me some of the mandrakes. So that evening, as Jacob was coming home from the fields, Leah went out to meet him. You must come and sleep with me tonight. Imagine talking to your husband like that, like for your husband to come and sleep with you, something that is intimate, something that is a sign of love and affection. You must come and sleep with me tonight. I have paid for you with some mandrakes that my son found. I even wonder how Jacob felt just being like used and thrown around from women to women, like a piece of meat, literally. And my God, it says that night he slept with Leah, and God answered Leah's prayer. She became pregnant again and gave birth to a 5th son for Jacob. She named him Issachar, for she said, God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband as a wife. Then Leah became pregnant again and gave birth to a 6th son for Jacob. She named him Zebulun, for she said, God has given me a good reward. Now my husband will treat me with respect. Please pay attention to the things that she's saying. Oh, that means there was no respect in this marriage. The husband too also viewed you like a piece of meat or a baby making machine. God forbid. Later, she gave birth to a daughter and named him Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by enabling her to have children. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. God has removed my disgrace, she said, and she named him Joseph. For she said, may the Lord add yet another son to my family. And the story continues, but I'm going to end here because, if you know the Bible and you know the story, you know that there was this tension, this toxicity, this animosity continued in the family up until Joseph grew up and his brothers planned, schemed, and sold him into slavery because he ended up being the favorite of his father. And so the point is that I think is self-explanatory. There is just so much tension, there is just so much anger, there's just so much conflict. It is not God's design, to be in an open relationship. It is not God's design for you to have a polyamorous relationship situation. God's design is one man and one woman. I remember when I was writing my vision board for my relationship, my marriage, like what I wanted, and what was on my list was that verse from Songs of Songs chapter 2 verse 16 that says, my beloved is mine and I am his. There is that intimacy, there is that ownership of your person, like I am his and he is mine. We're not sharing each other, we're not made for anybody else but each other. And yeah, that to me is love. That to me is what makes a kingdom marriage. That to me is God's design. But I would love to hear your thoughts. So I hope you are blessed by this video. Next week, we will be continuing with the poly situations, and we will be studying the dynamic between Hannah, Penina, and Elkanah, and that is contained in 1 Samuel 1. So I'll see you next week. I love you, but never forget, Jesus loves you the most. Bye, fam.